I am back.
Oh, we're here. We're here. We're here.
What's up? Well, you're there. You're there. I'm sitting in my office, but hey, look, we did not plan this.
No,
we did not, and we're looking sharp. I know you don't have the bow tie, but as I understand it, it's very hot there.
Too hot here at Monmouth Park. Welcome everybody to Breeders' Cup Live, Road to the Longines Classic. This is episode 2 of 7. We're going to be taking you all the way through to the Breeders' Cup with these Challenge Series races, big races leading all the way up to the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar. I'm Dan Tordjman with America's Best Racing. I am here at Monmouth Park, home of the Win and You're In, TVG.com, Haskell Stakes. She's Ren Carothers, of course. Didn't need the introduction, but, you know, why not? A formality. Ren, we've got 2 races. We've got the United Nations coming up, which is a really good and fun competitive turf race coming up in about, 15 minutes or so here at Monmouth Park. We've also got, as I mentioned, the TVG.com Haskell Stakes. We're going to show you that race. And so throughout the next hour or so, we want to hear from you. Tell us who you think is going to win the Haskell. Obviously, as we mentioned, a winner you're in for the Breeders' Cup Classic, the Longines Classic in November. And if you win this race, a lot of perks come along with it, including that automatic entry, the travel allowance, all the good stuff that comes with winning a race like this. Ren, from a betting standpoint, it's a smaller field, but it's a tough race to parse.
Well, I'm a chalk eating weasel with the Haskell. So, I mean, I'm not going to go against my boy Chuck. How do I No way. I am on the boat racing boat. So ahoy. I'm not going against Hot Rod Charlie. The horse just has everything I'm looking for in terms of what this race is going to demand today.
So I just lowered my microphone for a moment. I am right below a speaker here at Monmouth Park. I am also in a tent that is blowing. It is very windy. Luckily, the rain has held off for most of the day. We got a little sprinkle earlier, but if you see my shot go down completely, Ren already knows she's going to have to shoulder the burden of carrying the whole show. So, but she'll have a little bit of help because we do have a few guests that are going to come on momentarily.
Yes, we do. When are we getting to the first, or should we talk about the United Nations at all? We're not showing the race, I know, but
yeah, we can get into the UN. I did want to throw up a couple of comments here from people just saying hey and hello, popping in. If you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, say what's up. There's another comment here complimenting you, Ren. I'm not going to put it up. It's complimentary.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I don't
mind it.
No, I don't mind it. I thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Willie.
All right. So Willie, well played, Willie. We encourage you to comment with your picks coming up in the Haskell. But of course, let's start off with the United Nations. Ren, do you want to kick us off here? Give us a little overview of the field and what you like.
Well, sure. I mean, it's the Grade 1 United Nations set at 1 3/8 miles. And so, I mean, obviously your favorite is Arklow. I don't have the current live odds up in front of me. I meant to do that before we went live here, but the last I saw, he was at even money. I'm going to try to pull those up real quick so I can tell you what he currently is. But before I get to that, I do think he is a vulnerable favorite for sure. And you've got a trio of Chad Brown horses in this race, and I'm looking for at least 2 of them to comprise the exacta. I'm going to go personally with a horse named Masterpiece. That is the 8 horse on top for Chad Brown. This horse, one of the things that really stood out to me, apart from the fact that he was already running pretty much gangbusters from the jump in his first start here in North America, is the fact that he did back-to-back triple-digit buyers, first on October 30th, or October 3rd, rather, that was in the Turf Classic Invitational Grade 1 event. Channel Maker was the winner of that race, and as we know, Channel Maker went on to set the pace, but then finished 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Turf. And then you also had Lucario there in second. Lucario went on to run a half-length second to Arklow in the Hollywood Turf Cup. So you've got some common opponent lines in there. But yeah, he came back from that layoff, put up 103 buyer from the 1 hole to prevail in an allowance field. But allowance field, it's relative, right? Because the horse who was second was a very nice horse, an Admiralty Pier. Also in that race, who was fourth was Talk or Listen. He next ran second to Some Like It Hot Brown in the Dinner Party Stakes at Pimlico. And, I just think this horse, one of the things that the running line does not mention in the Manhattan, it wasn't earth shattering. He got bumped a little bit coming out of the gate there. And then also notice, he ran that race without Lasix. The Lasix is back today. So there is maybe an argument to be made that the fall off in figure was perhaps due in part to that, but also take in mind that half for the mile and a quarter was run in a blistering 46-4. So you can't really fault the horse there. Is there speed in this race? Yeah. I mean, you do have Tordjman, his stablemate, back in here. It's not possible, but I don't think this horse gets the distance today. But he's going to have other horses challenging him on the front end, like Todd Pletcher's Winter's Back. But it looks like a very competitive race, but I am going with him on top. And then I do like Serve the King by Kingman out of a Galileo mare. Remember, Galileo, whom we just lost, superstar stallion, but he also had won the Upsom Derby and the Irish Derby. So I think this is a horse with the opportunity now to stretch those legs, could be a factor.
Well, you often do make all of the points that are most relevant, but in this particular case, you not only made the points that are relevant, you made the points that were irrelevant that I was going to make.
Sorry.
You completely stolen my thunder.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I think it's a good time that we're both on Masterpiece. I'm going to throw up my selections now. They're right there. I think for all the reasons you pointed out, and that Lasix angle, a key one. When you see these horses now in some of these graded stakes races where Lasix are not permitted and they really perform completely different than they had previously, and now they're back on Lasix, which is what you got with Masterpiece. I think it's certainly not only worth noting, but I think it moves the horse up a little bit. And let me just go ahead and give you some of those odds. Since you mentioned a moment ago that you're trying to pull up some of the odds, your favorite, as predicted, is Arklow, the one horse. The two horse, one of your longest shots, Epic Bromance, 40-1. Serve the King, surprisingly, 19-1. I think that was your second choice, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm putting in a trifecta right
now. Go ahead. You put in your wager. I'm going to read through the rest of this. Imperador, the four horse, 21-1. Fantasioso is a long shot that I like. You see there my selections. Bet down from 12-1 on the morning line, 8-1 right now. Winter's Back, one of those speed horses that you talked about, 8-1 on the morning line, now 28-1. So that kind of seems like an odd number there. Very, very gutsy horse. The 7, Ocean's Map, 30-1 morning line, now 57-1. Masterpiece, the horse that we both like, 5-1 right now. So a very square price on Masterpiece. Glynn County, a horse we haven't said as much about. Mike Maker, Tyler Gaffleone, the right connection should sit the perfect trip here. 16-1 right now. So some juicy prices on the board if you're looking to beat the favorites. Tribuban, the horse that we talked about buying the lead from the start, 2-1 right now from that outside post, the 10-hole. We hear Frank on the mic above us here at Monmouth Park. Frank Maramati will be joining us before the Haskell. As we said, if you're watching, please let us know who you think will win this race. Let us know who you think will win the TVG.com Haskell. And also, let us know, you guys going to Breeders' Cup? Tickets are on sale now. The website right down there, breederscup.com/tickets. Breeders' Cup tickets now on sale. Ren, I don't know what anyone's waiting for. If you can go to Breeders' Cup, you should go to Breeders' Cup.
Oh my gosh. It's a Breeders' Cup, wherever it happens to be held, is an amazing experience. Unforgettable. You're going to see world-worthy performances. It is the World Championships for a reason. And I've been to the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar when they hosted it for the first time there, and it was wonderful. It felt very intimate because it's not a giant track like Santa Anita. So yeah, if you can go, I highly recommend it. Thankfully, I'm very blessed that I actually get to work it. So I will be there. And I expect you will as well. I would just recommend, guys, I know it's California, it's Southern California, but leave the flip-flops at home.
Perfect timing, by the way. I had it on mute because the tent almost blew away here. But our first guest is here. So
you can hazard pay.
There. This is Samantha Perry. Samantha,
hi,
say hello to folks at home. And for those who don't know,
it's so nice to meet you.
We're trying to rig this up here as best we can.
All
I think that sort of works, right?
Yeah.
All right, so there it is. Samantha, you are one of the new faces out here at Monmouth Park. You're a TV analyst here. Tell the people a little bit about yourself because you're new to the America's Best Racing and Breeders' Cup audiences.
Yeah. Well, hi, everybody. I am Samantha Perry. It's nice to meet you, Rin. Nice to meet you. I watch you on at Tampa Bay a lot, so it's
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah. So I graduated college with a degree in mass communications, and a week prior to graduating, I rode my first professional race, and a week after I graduated, I rode my first winner. So it was really exciting. I was back at my home track at Monmouth Park in Oklahoma City. And from there, I moved my tack to Ruidoso Downs. I was riding quarter horses at the time, and that was just the big spot for quarter horse racing. And I was riding first call for a trainer who's actually just inducted into the Hall of Fame in New Mexico, Donna MacArthur, and she gave me a shot, and it was a really fun summer. From there, I went with her to Zia Park, and I was fifth in a grade 2 futurity that year. So my first year riding, it was a really exciting year. And I just kind of stayed in that circuit, went back to Oklahoma and rode the Texas circuit as well. And I did get injured, not in a race. It was during morning training. And I started working for Brendan Walsh coming off of my injury. So that's where I've been the past year and a half.
Wow.
And just kind of did some life rethinking of not going back into the racing saddle. I can't get away from the horses. So made a demo reel, started sending it out. And now I got this gig at Monmouth Park.
So
That's awesome.
Have you found handicapping to be any safer than riding, or is it?
Definitely not. No, it is for sure. It's still hard. It's a big adjustment, but luckily for trainer Brendan Walsh, I still on my off days have been able to get on horses for him. Was in Saratoga and things like that. So it's just definitely a fun thing.
Yeah,
I want to know if you've ever been on Maxfield.
I didn't ask you whether you ever had the opportunity to be on Maxfield.
Only in the shed row, just tag walking. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
But
awesome.
it's still fun, yeah.
2 minutes.
Ren has a slight crush on Maxfield.
I think Bryn, you and every other person, male or female, it doesn't matter. I mean, he's just amazing. Yeah, amazing animal to be around for sure. I was the regular rider for Extravagant Kid. And so he's my favorite. And you know Florida breds well, so he has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh my gosh. Can she hear me, or I'm talking to you, Dan?
So I'll relate her what you're saying. She can't hear
Ask her how she feels that her background in race riding gives her an edge in handicapping.
Ren is basically asking your experience as a rider, how that might give you an edge when you're doing your handicapping.
Yeah, I mean, I like to watch the horses in the paddock, Rin, and I think that gives a good indication. And making notes from their last start to this start, how they look physically, going out in the morning is something that I like to see a lot. Just to get a pattern of the sense of how trainers train on their horses. There are some that I have a lot of questions about, and it works out great for them. And there are some that I think they're on a great training program, and they don't win any. So it just kind of depends. But I definitely pay a lot. I'm more of a looker in the paddock, and a lot of people don't like me for this. I change my picks as I see them, and I'm sorry for that. I try to let everybody know, but it's easy to do that when you see them in the flesh.
Yeah, so Ren, I rely on Ren for most of my visual handicapping because all I know how to do is read, the past performances. I can't even tell. I'm like, oh, 4 legs, I think that's common.
Mane and tail, they look great. And Ren is incredible with the breeding. I mean, she is like a book of knowledge, so it's really awesome to hear that side of things as well.
Ren is asking you to please continue.
Oh, yeah.
I want to know about her Gallop Girl. I want to know about Gallop Girl too, Dan.
She says she wants to know about Gallop Girl.
Oh, you've heard of that. Okay. So that is a program that I started. It was kind of hard to get into, just kind of putting yourself out there and putting a brand out there. But Gallop Girl is a brand I started to bring awareness into females in racing. And there's just, I don't feel like there's a lot of people that know how many, and they're not even jockeys, but I mean, analysts like ourselves, Rin, or photographers, vets. There's just so many different facets of women in racing that people don't realize. And so it's just working together as one, being supportive, women supporting women in this day and age is so important, and being everybody's biggest fan.
Absolutely. Now, where would people compete? Is there like a site for that, or
Yes,
are you on social?
Yep. So on Instagram, it's at Gallop Girl, and then on Facebook, it's Gallop Girl as well. And then gallopgirl.com, you can get shirts, anything. But I try to just showcase different women. And Rin, I'm gonna have to send you a shirt now.
Thank you. Yes, please do.
You can get one too.
Ren was angling for that from the beginning.
Okay,
That's what she was going.
I'm all about the merch. I'm all about the merch.
So the UN is about to go off. I'm assuming you have to go off and like watch this race and then do stuff after the race. Just give us real quick before we let you go. How are you playing the Haskell?
Okay, so my top choice just from seeing him so far and watching this horse progress is Midnight Bourbon. He looks the part. I think that he's got a real chance to step up. And Steve Asmussen doesn't chirp on his horses too much. He's really chirped on this one. I know he thought that he was going to win the Preakness, and we all kind of did. Ron Bauer was a surprise. So definitely excited to see that horse and see how he does in this race. But also, there's Mandolin. You can't. What a great horse too. Yeah. So it's a tough race.
Okay. Well, you've named two of them. If you name any more, it's not. You know, you're not giving us an edge. So we're gonna go with your Midnight Bourbon.
All right.
And we'll stick with that. You guys, I'm sure we'll connect. You'll exchange numbers and text and DM, and you guys obviously have connected here. I also want a shirt at some point. It's a pleasure meeting you, Samantha Perry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you too.
All right, so that was cool. Samantha Perry. I was unaware of the fact that she was a rider. I didn't even know that. So,
well, there you go. Get with it, Dan Tordjman. Okay, we got Troop Havan in the lead, unsurprisingly, at 8-5. Winter's back, actually, just sort of relaxing like he's not there, running in second at, is that right? 29-1, a Todd Fletcher horse. Epic Bromance is about hanging back behind him at 60-1, and we've got Imperador 23-1. Oh, we got a long way to go yet, y'all.
Yeah, I was hoping you could just I was like putting you on the spot, like Bram, like you got to call the whole race now because I've got all this noise here.
Oh, I've got to call the whole race. Oh,
bring us home, Ren.
I'm gonna bring us home. Trivialand, still just hanging out there on the lead. The first quarter was run in 24, just shy of it, just being 24 flat. The half now and 1 or 49 and 32 100ths if you want to get exact. And he's going along easily enough, but I just don't think that he's going to be able to sustain this all the way. It's still a merry-go-round with Winter's back running in second. What is that, about 6 lengths back? What do you think? About how many lengths do you think, Dan?
I'll go with 5 lengths.
5, yeah, I went a little too far there. He's closing the gap now. Starting to move on. Here we go. Here comes Winter's back is now, wait, no, that was, oh wait, they're switching positions now. I'm sorry. So Winter's back still in second. Epic Bromance is making a run to the outside of him. He's about to pass him. We've got the Matt Carothers horse, Imperador, running now and trying to, he's trying to close over to get up there. He's starting to pass Epic Bromance, running up into second. And surprisingly, it looks like Troop Havan actually went the whole way.
All right, I guess Troop Havan's a good horse.
I guess he is. I was wrong. I thought that horse would stop at some point. But once you did see that happen in 49 and 1, let's see yeah.
Slow,
I mean, they went 115 and 2, and then the mile 140. 140 for the mile.
Yeah. I mean, I know that, exactly. I know they were, It's, it's always tricky. The best you could do is handicap to what you think as fast as they're going to go. Sorry, as I adjust my my microphone, earpiece here. But sometimes
I will not have a career in race calling anytime soon.
Hey, we actually threw you into the fire in the middle of a race, so it's not easy.
What was that? What was that? Well, I'm out of my pick 4 because I bet against him because I thought, you know what, is he going to go the whole way? And I figured he'd go off at a short price, so I didn't want.
Ryan, I'm putting up your selections here just in case.
Why do that? No.
Well, I had Masterpiece too, just in case anyone was like, we're ignoring them on Masterpiece, but She did say Imperador had a good shot, so I'm gonna give you some props on Imperador.
Turn number 2,
So.
Epic Romance.
No, I mean, that was more of like Mac Brothers sort of brought my attention to him, and then I ended up liking him as well. But still,
You
yeah.
could take credit. You could take the credit there.
Yeah, okay, I'll take a little credit. Oh man, what? It's like this is what happens. You've got to get these horses involved from the jump, and also we are dealing with a situation which you have to be more of a hands-on rider, literally, here today. So.
Yep. So you just heard some in the moment live race calling and quick analysis from us on the United Nations Stakes. But of course, the feature one here is the Win and You're In TVG.com Haskell
Which we will
Stakes
be showing. I see somebody asking if we're showing that. Yes, we're showing
that. So we will be showing you that race live here. It looks like your mom was saying hi to Samantha when she was on.
I love the support from mom. Mom's always there.
Yeah. So everyone who's in right now, thank you for obviously jumping in with us. We're getting an early race prediction here in the Haskell from Simon, likes Midnight Bourbon. And are we going to show the race? Again, yes, the answer is we will be showing you the TVG.com Haskell Stakes. There's so much to get to here, Ren. Let's set this race up a little bit. And as we said momentarily, we're going to show you the live race video from Monmouth Park here. But look, the headliner is pretty clear. You've got your runner-up finisher in the Belmont Stakes in Hot Rod Charlie. You've got your runner-up finisher in the Preakness Stakes in Midnight Bourbon. And you got your runner-up finisher in the Kentucky Derby in Mandaloon, who came back to win the Pegasus Stakes here, the local prep for the Haskell. Outside of them, you also have the up-and-comer, Following C for Todd Pletcher, coming out of a first-level allowance blowout, posted 100 buyer, and also stretching out from 6.5 furlongs to 1 1/8 miles. So let's start with that question, Ren. What do you do when you have a horse taking this kind of step up against the types of horses that I just mentioned earlier that were on the Triple Crown Trail?
Well, here's the thing I'll say about that horse. I watched that race back, and he was uber impressive. I mean, this horse put up 100 buyer figure without being asked, really. I mean, it was basically a hand ride the whole way around under Rosario, and he won by 6.5 lengths. Now, the question is, like you said, he is taking a giant step up into this spot, and on top of that, he's going to have to go 1.8 miles, and he's got other speed with which to contend, because Midnight Bourbon under Paco Lopez is probably going to be right with him. And he's going to want to go from the 1 hole, I would imagine. Now, I looked at the pedigree because I really wanted to make an argument, potentially, if we could see a big upset, although I am, again, fully Team Chuck. But that being said, I looked at it and I looked at it and looked at it, and I could not make the argument for him in this spot to go the 1.8 miles to win. I do think he won so easily, and you want to see a horse who runs like that well within themselves, especially given the rules there at Monmouth Park about asking your horse. So, I just think that the pedigree in the 2 turns, I just don't see it here today. For a win, anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, look, you make a very I think you obviously defaulted because you are the pedigree expert. You default to pedigree, right? I'm a pace handicapper who sometimes thinks that when you have a tactical pace advantage, specifically when you are a lone speed horse or a horse that's stretching out from a shorter distance to a route of ground, it doesn't guarantee you're going to make it to the winner's circle. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to run well, but I think if you do have it within you, I think you can make up for a lot of what you lack in class in those sorts of situations.
Well, what you're saying is what you lack in the genetics to say that you're a stamina type horse. Well, I mean, again, he put in a half of 44 and 3 without even being asked, which is pretty freakish. But yeah, I mean, like I said, if he were lone speed, I just feel like Paco, for some reason, I have it in the back of my mind that Paco's going to go with Midnight. And even though this horse is on the stretch out, and we should even see that speed, put him a few lengths out, potentially, I just think that he's not going to be left alone out there. And I do like that you have the versatility with Hot Rod Charlie to either go or rate off. But I mean, you do make a point, because you often have to say, because we have seen in, a couple of years now, horses that you wouldn't think, just based on the surface of everything, that they were going to get a classic distance, right? But they have, because what you're basically saying is, and it is very true, efficiency of stride can mitigate fatigue. So it's possible for sure. I just don't.
That sounds a lot better than what I said. Thank you, Ren. That sounds a lot better than anything I said. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
You got it. You got it.
We mentioned a few other horses here. Obviously, the big names in here. Hot Rod Charlie is one of them who we have a sentimental, a personal connection to. As many people know, the ownership team, Boat Racing, they've also made a commitment to donating a portion of their winnings throughout the Triple Crown to melanoma research. They're obviously supporting the Jake Panis Scholarship Foundation. And so we love that story. Before we get into what we think about the horse's chance of winning, let's take a look at what happened the last time he ran in the Belmont Stakes.
They are midway around the far turn. The mile in 1:37.2. Here comes Essential Quality up on the outside to challenge Hot Rod Charlie for the lead. Rock Your World is next in third. Then Rombauer, Known Agenda being asked for more as the field comes for the quarter pole. It is Essential Quality on the outside and Hot Rod Charlie on the inside. Essential Quality with a narrow lead. Hot Rod Charlie continues to battle on, and now there's an eighth of a mile to the finish. It is Essential Quality with the lead here over Hot Rod Charlie. Now a 16th to the finish, and it is Essential Quality, and he's showing his quality today. The champion 2-year-old has won the Test of the Champion.
In the 1.5 Belmont over Big Sandy, and he still gutted it out.
All right, so I may be a moment away from blowing away entirely. So here's what I'm going to do.
Don't blow away.
I'm going to blow away on this rooftop. By the way, I see Vic Stauffer in the green room. Vic, hang with us for a little bit. We appreciate you being there. I want to bring in real quick, live from Saratoga, with less wind, it seems, Penelope Miller. Penelope, how are you?
It is so great to be back at the spa in person. Hi, Ren. Hi, Dan. We are moments away ourselves from the Sanford Stakes here, which is a pretty big race for 2-year-olds. And I just fell in love with number 6. Dan, if you're going to like the name, Maryland Brando.
Ooh, I do love that. I do love that.
My reason for falling in love with him, aside from his outstanding name, he got a huge kiss from his groom as they entered into the paddock, and the photo of that is up on @ABR Live on Twitter right now. But a really packed, talented field of 2-year-olds here. The one probably to keep a good close eye on is the number 1, Wit. Again, Dan, you're going to like him. He's a practical joke out of the Medaglia d'Oro mare. A lot of performance there, so it's going to be a good day. And right after that, the Haskell is up with you. And then we move on to the Diana here at Saratoga at about 6:14 p.m.
As you said, practical joke, I immediately was reminded of all the money I lost during that year. Which I guess it wasn't too long ago. I mean, I try to erase it from my memory, but it was only probably, I think, about three or 4 years ago. Penelope, we just saw the video of Hot Rod Charlie, the Belmont Stakes, very game, very gritty. That was your return to the track after, a long time away. We're all just kind of getting back to the track for the first time, which is wonderful. Tell us what you saw that day and kind of what it leads you to believe about what lies ahead for him today, potentially, in the Haskell.
What I saw was a horse that had a lot of heart, a lot of grit, and a lot of determination. I mean, Big Sandy is called that for a reason. It is a very large, very tiring track. I think that the time off between the Belmont Stakes and this Haskell is going to be a big benefit to him. So, I mean, I would definitely use him. I don't know if I'd just bet a straight win ticket because you're not going to make a ton of money, but I'd put him on top of your exotics for sure. And I think that he has, he showed in the Belmont Stakes, the kind of heart that gets you a classic victory. So I would keep a firm eye on him as we get closer and closer to the Breeders' Cup.
That's right. And if anybody out there is wondering why they're going blinkers off, changing something up, I actually reached out to both Doug O'Neill and Team Boat Racing. And Doug O'Neill says that they're trying to get his competitive nature to its highest. And Riley Higgins of Boat Racing, he elaborated on that point, saying that the blinkers are coming off to hopefully allow him to finish his races better. In the past, Pratt thought he kind of waited on some other horses when on the lead down the stretch. He breezed with them off leading up to the Haskell, and Pratt liked the way he went by and kept on going.
That's really good. Of course, Ren working her sources as always. Really good information for all of us. Ren, this question here from Travis, I want to send to you. A great race effort from Hot Rod Charlie in the Belmont, but how much did that take out of him? What do you think?
It's so many weeks ago, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you're looking for a horse to bounce,
okay.
A bounce is like 3 weeks later. I mean, once it's past 3 weeks, who cares? It's not a bounce anymore. I mean, a horse has had enough time to recuperate.
Nice.
I second that, Ren.
And also we have somebody who just checked in from Scotland, and then we have hello Scotland. I know she's saying hello to him. She's interacting now with our guest from Scotland. Yeah,
my mom's very welcoming.
All right, everyone, drop in the comments in here. Keep them coming. Let us know who you think's going to win the Haskell. Penelope, before we let you go there, because you've got some big races coming up at Saratoga, just talk about some of the excitement leading up to, I mean, the whole Challenge Series. There are big races coming up in Saratoga as well that are winning your races for the Breeders' Cup. You're going to be there. Hopefully, I'll be there in a couple of weeks to see some of them as well with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the summer racing is incredible. It's unparalleled to me here at Saratoga. In addition to some of these huge Breeders' Cup win and your in races that will land their victors in the World Championships this November at Del Mar, we also have the Jim Dandy and the Travers coming up for the 3-year-old division. So much going on at Saratoga, and crowds are back, full capacity, wide open. So if you're on the East Coast, Beast Coast, make a trip to the spa this summer. You're not going to regret it.
If you haven't been following ABR on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, Penelope's been shooting some beautiful photos there at Saratoga. So check those out and check out all the content that Penelope and our entire team has put together on America's Best Racing, including beginner's guides for both Saratoga and Del Mar. So
yeah,
lots of
absolutely. It's so important if you are coming to the track for the first time to have a little bit of knowledge about what to do, how to bet, where to go, what to eat. We're here to help. So go to ABR and check it out.
All right, Penelope, keep working on that tan.
I know,
and
right?
And the hair's still on point.
I'm the Middle Eastern one, and I'm so white compared.
I'm a Florida bred. I brown up easily. What can I do?
I love it.
Thank you, Penelope. We'll see you soon.
Bye, guys. Have a great day. Happy Haskell.
Happy Haskell.
And I love that my mom, by the way, is not getting the Wizard of Oz joke. The gentleman from Scotland said, "Are you in Kansas?" She said, "No, Florida."
Oh my God, that is so funny. And that was well played there. I was almost going to show that whole interaction, but we're going to lose some of our audience. What's going on? We do have now the view of Monmouth Park. So we do have a view here from the paddock, the saddling area. We could take a look now, our first look at some of the odds. We're going to show you this race live, the Haskell Stakes. Let's take a look at these odds. Greedy down at the rail, following C, 4-1 right now. So taking a decent bit of action early on, following C. The 2 horse, one of your long shots. Just lost my entire screen. Hold on, I will retrieve it.
That's the 5 Pickens.
And Gravity, 41. The 3 horse, Mandaloon, who I want to talk about in a moment, ran 4-1. Hot Rod Charlie, your heavy favorite right now at 3-5. The 5 horse is Pickin' Time. Comes off of a well-beaten 7th in the Jersey Derby, is 46-1. Midnight Bourbon, your current 4th choice on the board, the 6 horse, with Paco Lopez aboard for the first time. We talked about some of the tactics maybe from Paco Lopez, maybe going to try to hustle the horse out. 9-2 right now on Midnight Bourbon, your 6 horse, and another long shot, the 7 Basso, coming out of a 6th place finish in an allowance race at Monmouth Park. So, as I mentioned, Vic Stauffer is with us here. The only reason I haven't brought him in, only reason I haven't brought him in yet is because I want to be able to kind of carry through the last 10 minutes or so with him and watch the race with him. And I'm worried that it's going to step over our next guest. So Vic, if you can give me the thumbs up, are you good with waiting 5 more minutes out there? Okay, Vic's still good waiting. All right. Vic, if you're good waiting, Ren, tell us what you noticed about Mandaloun and the ride we saw him get last out at Monmouth Park in the Pegasus Stakes. And then we're going to take a look at that video, but let people know what they should look for in this video we're about to play.
Well, again, remember, they have certain rules there at Monmouth, and you really want to see a horse who's willing to finish without really, a jockey having to get too much into them. The thing I noticed, more so than Mandaloun himself, was the fabulous ride that Florent Geroux gave him. Florent is a really, really expert rider, as we know, but this really put it on display because you see him asking the horse in a very subtle way as then he builds it up by then knuckling on the neck. He's making sure that his knees are in position so that his lower body is pretty steady. The more you rock on a horse, the more you can throw them off stride. And this, I feel, is not explained enough to people who are not actual equestrians. Any type of movement you make can really affect a horse in how they're putting that foot down into the next step. Florent is nice and steady, he's nice and still, but he's so strong and willing the horse to finish that even though he had that bad start where, it wasn't so much that was out of the gate, so much as he had to take back because he was getting pinched between horses, but he got the horse to relax, and then you can see him get him into a rhythm as he's asking him. The more you get a horse nice and calm and in a rhythm, the better able they are to put their best hoof forward, so to speak. And I think he did a really wonderful job in that, and I think you need a rider like this in a race like this where the rules are what they are.
All right, well, let's take a look back at that Pegasus and the ride that Mandaloun got there.
And I know he's all out to beat Weyburn, I know, but still.
Less than a half mile to go. 48-3 for the half mile time, and here comes Weyburn to kick on. Weyburn is up by a half length, now a full length. Lugamos back to second, Dr. Jack. Mandaloun is called upon, got to make up 2.5 lengths coming out to the leader, Weyburn. Brooklyn Strong at the back of the field, well into the far turn. Weyburn's got the lead, Dr. Jack, and now asks for the entire effort as Mandaloun to the outside. Weyburn at the top of the stretch. Mandaloun is now picking up strides, and here comes Mandaloun roaring down the center of the racetrack. Mandaloun is now up by a full length. Dr. Jack down to the inside, in between them, Weyburn. Mandaloun is kicking on. Dr. Jack not going away. Weyburn is fighting back. Mandaloun, Weyburn. Here comes a resilient Weyburn to Mandaloun. Mandaloun, Weyburn. Mandaloun got it by a head.
Yeah, I don't expect him to have, the problems he had there in the Pegasus getting away and getting into position. So as much as, like I said before, he was all out to beat Weyburn, I just think that was more something that had to be overcome due to the beginning of the race.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was never a big Mandaloun guy, and I guess my hesitation with him, at least in recent months, has been, they come out of the Derby with that second place finish, and here I am thinking, all right, well, that was a really nice bounce back race, certainly from the Louisiana Derby. When I immediately when I dismissed him coming out of that race, I'm like, why not go to the Preakness? Why not go to the Belmont? And then it just really looks like they're slow rolling this thing. So either Brad Cox has this horse sitting on like an explosive effort right now, or maybe they know that he doesn't belong at this level. But I'm sort of starting to kind of lean toward the former. Oh, and we got Bruce playing now, by the way.
That's
you hear it?
Right. Yes. For those who don't know, obviously, this is the song they play ahead of the Haskell, Born to Run. It's really fun. This is one of the experiences, if you ever get to go in the paddock ahead of the Haskell, it's an unforgettable experience because they're serving champagne there in the paddock. You never know who you'll rub shoulders with. I literally rubbed shoulders. This is a funny story. So walking out of the Haskell paddock, I forget what year this was, and I feel like I was wearing a dress, so my shoulder was bare, and I felt the material of the gentleman who was next to me, his suit was kind of like scratching me a little bit, and he was singing along to the music, and I looked up, and it was Bill Murray.
Oh,
I was literally rubbing shoulders with Bill Murray. Yeah.
Only at Monmouth Park, only in horse racing.
And the only thing else on Monmouth Park, the pork roll from the Jocks room, but that is chef's kiss.
All right, you see the comment, you see the note down there. Let us know who you think will win. I'm going to throw Ren's selections up here in the Haskell. And Ren,
Chalk eating weasel.
so much chalk.
So
Hot
much
Rod,
chalk.
Mandaloon, Midnight Bourbon, Following C. Anything else you want to tell us about your top four, Ren?
No, I mean, come on. It's pretty self-explanatory, I would think, right? I think at this point we bring in whomever you want to bring in to let them explain if they have a different angle that somehow we're just missing.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to bring in Vic Stauffer. He's been waiting patiently in the green room, so we're going to bring him in right now. Let's see. Let's remove this from the screen. Let's remove this from the screen. Vic, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hey, guys. I've enjoyed watching the show. Great job.
Thank you. Long time no see.
Yeah. You're doing a great job. I watched a lot of the coverage down from Tampa, and this is fun. You know, one thing struck me in watching those two replays. I thought they were both very interesting. And first, talking about Hot Rod Charlie in the Belmont, I didn't realize that he weighs about 300 pounds less than Essential Quality. He's just a little guy. Compared to Essential Quality, who is an absolute truck. And so for him to stick around and battle on so bravely from the inside, I think it was very indicative of the class that he shows. However, Ren, you were talking about how, well, after about 3 weeks or a month, a bounce doesn't really matter. Well, don't tell that to Rachel Alexandra after the Woodward, because she was never the same horse. And so I wonder if maybe the reason why we haven't seen Hot Rod Charlie is because that race took so very much out of him. I guess we'll find out today, but that was a taxing race on a taxing racetrack, running a distance that none of them had ever run. And yet Hot Rod Charlie really kind of had, I think, his heart broken a little bit down there on the inside. And I'm not so sure if he'll be able to recover from that. And I'll certainly take the position that he won't be able to recover from it based on the price that he is right now. There are 4 horses that can win this race, and only one of them is a terrible bet, and that's Hot Rod Charlie.
Argument made.
Ren,
I can understand why.
Ren, let's go. Push back. I want to see this battle.
I think the Rachel thing, he's right. She was never the same again, but it's, for me, it was just such a different animal, and what she went through there in the Woodward against the males, and it ran her freaking eyeballs out. Like, it was unbelievable. But with Hot Rod Charlie, he still looked like he was going along really easily to my eye, whereas it didn't look like this all-out run, like, oh my gosh, that horse is running out of their skin, like she looked to me. But it's very well possible what he says may materialize. I think that the Haskell was always one of the races that they were going to be looking at. And so that's why I'm not so sure that they were avoiding anything or anyone and waiting for this spot. But you know, I think even they had entertained the idea of the Pacific Classic at one point. I don't know, but at any rate, the horse to me looks just fabulous in the flesh. So he's certainly in my mind is not going to lose for having lost anything physically in that regard. But to Vic's point, Vic knows his stuff too. So I certainly would not say his argument is impossible.
Well, yeah, and that's so yeah. Go ahead, Vic. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, first of all, on Hot Rod Charlie, my concern with him was a little different. Ren, I shared this with you a little earlier, which is that I think Hot Rod Charlie is best when he's on the lead. And I think that, if you look at the Louisiana Derby, he was right there. Belmont Stakes, he was right there. In the Kentucky Derby, he had to do it from slightly off the pace, and I didn't think he had much of an excuse. Relatively speaking, I thought he had a good trip, but he just kind of hung. The same thing in the Robert B. Lewis. Had a nice setup, but kind of hung. And so, I don't know, maybe that's a byproduct in both of those races of trying to catch Medina Spirit, who was uncatchable when he was on the front end. But maybe it's just that this is a horse who's better. He's a lot braver when he's loose on the front end. So that's my handicapping thing. And the other thing I was going to sort of transition to as it relates to Vic is, Vic, part of the reason you're on is because I'm sort of curious about your process in handicapping. I know you use Theragraph, and I want to kind of know about more about like how you actually handicap the races, because you're a prolific handicapper in addition to being a legendary race caller.
Well, at the end of the day, there are so many different factors that go in to try to make the right bet and to pick a winner. But at the end of the day, fast horses beat slow horses. And people have bet a lot of money, billions of dollars over decades, on all kinds of things that don't have that basic premise, which is fast horses beat slow horses. They will bet because their mother or their father was fast. They will bet because a jockey wins a particular number of races. But at the end of the day, these racehorses produce numbers. And if you have a sophisticated tool, and I mean a sophisticated tool like Thorograph, you really can compare and contrast them very, very well. Hot Rod Charlie just paired halves. Those are very, very fast races. However, they are not dramatically faster than Following C, who just ran the same number, but did it sprinting, and it was only his third start. Or Midnight Bourbon, who, when he ran second in the Preakness, ran a 1. That's only a half point less than Hot Rod Charlie. And then Mandaloon also ran very, very fast in his last start. Another thing that struck me, by the way, about those replays was Mandaloon's replay. And that is, didn't you get the feeling, you heard the announcer say, and here comes Wayburn battling back. Didn't you get the feeling that Mandaloon was waiting for Florent Giroux to pick up and whack him right-handed a couple of times? I thought so. And when I saw that, I realized that therein lies another thing that plays a major role in this race, and that's the 4 jockeys on the 4 horses that look like they can win. You have Joel Rosario, who's riding for the first time this year at Monmouth. You have Florent Giroux, who has ridden 2 horses at Monmouth, and you have Flavien Prat, who is riding for the first time this year. So for the 3 of them, you have a combined 3 starts on this racetrack with what we know is a very, very dramatic thing as it relates to using the riding crop. And then you have Paco Lopez, who's ridden 116 races this year on this track. And I think that's a very compelling factor into trying to pick who you think is going to win this race as well.
27%.
So I am on occasion here going, I'm muting myself because of the wind. It is really windy out here. It's post time now. You hear the call from Frank Maramati. They're going into the gate. You have the video up here. We're going to listen to it. Vic, let's get a quick, how do we bet this race? Last second.
The right horse to bet on is Midnight Bourbon. I'm an Asmussen guy too because of all the wins he has at Oakland, but he's got the right numbers. He's never in his life gone backwards on Thorograph. If he goes forward today, he's the biggest price of the 4 horses that can win on numbers. He will go forward, and he's my play, Midnight Bourbon.
All right.
All right, Ren, Hot Rod Charlie, and Mandaloon for you, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go some combination.
I'll have water handy for my chalk.
I'll go Mandaloon, Following C. I like Following C quite a bit. Vic is on Midnight Bourbon, and we will let you hear the call right now. The TBG.com Haskell, a win and you're in for the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic.
Basso goes up. Goes in. They're in the gate. And they're off in the TBG.com Haskell. And Following C comes out running for the lead. Hot Rod Charlie has speed too. And Midnight Bourbon outside of that pair. The top 3 separated by less than a length in the early going. Mandaloon settles down on the inside, a joint 4th, and about 3 lengths off the early action. Picking time is between horses. Basso outside of that pair, and Anti-Gravity is at the back of the field. They have about 6 furlongs to go, and it is Following C who will set the pace, prompted by Midnight Bourbon, who's just a neck back second. Hot Rod Charlie has backed off, 2 off the pace in 3rd. Down at the rail, it's Mandaloon in 4th. He has about 4 lengths to make up. Picking time is in between horses. Basso outside of him, and Anti-Gravity. They're heading to the half-mile pole in the TBG.com Haskell. Following C and Joel Rosario lead the way by a half length. Midnight Bourbon has been keeping him company. Mandaloon, a threatening presence in 3rd, tugging his way forward. Hot Rod Charlie is just outside of him. And then it's a gap of 4 lengths to Basso on the outside of Picking Time and Anti-Gravity. The new leader is Midnight Bourbon with a 1/4 of a mile to go. confronted by Hot Rod Charlie on the outside. Mandaloon Pink Cap following C at the rail. Here comes Hot Rod Charlie unleashed, and Mandaloon comes through with a smart move, and these two will fight it out. Hot Rod Charlie, taking and losing the rider was Midnight Bourbon in mid-stretch. It's Hot Rod Charlie, Mandaloon, Hot Rod Charlie. Here's the line. Photo finish in the TVG.com has
that on.
All right, so obviously Paco Lopez, they're going down in the stretch on Midnight Bourbon. Our thoughts at this moment with Paco and with Midnight Bourbon. We will obviously bring you an update as soon as we can, and as soon as we hear something here. I'm on track, so hopefully something will filter into me here before long. And as you may have just heard, a steward's inquiry, naturally, logically, will be coming here. The finish, as it relates to the top two, obviously, I thought inseparable. Vic, you're the race caller. You've seen many of those over the years. Who did that go to your eye?
Oh, it's certainly outside. No getting around it. I think it's Hot Rod Charlie and Mandaloon. I'm also a steward, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing the head-on and the pan of this race. I think Midnight Bourbon clipped heels, and I think he clipped the heels of Hot Rod Charlie. So this is going to be a dramatic inquiry. Having seen it live the first time, Midnight Bourbon clearly was going to finish third. However, you are entitled to a clear and unobstructed path, and there you see 4, 3, 1, 2, and they'll start showing the head-on and the pan of this race. And I'm not going to say anything more until we start seeing those. Seeing it live, here we go. We'll be able to tell what happened here. And Midnight Bourbon is between horses in a white. Mandaloon is in the pink cap at the rail. Hot Rod Charlie is in the red shadow roll, white silks. And boy, I will tell you, this is a dramatic replay, because what happens here, and I'll show it to you again. What happens here is that Mandaloon is going to come out very slightly and make contact with Midnight Bourbon. But after he does that, there is a space there where Hot Rod Charlie crosses in front of Midnight Bourbon right there and causes him to clip heels and unseat Paco Lopez. Had he not fallen and unseated the rider, I would say that the stewards could say that he was not cost an opportunity at a better placing. But however, given the fact that he did in fact fall and unseat the rider, I'd want to watch it a couple more times, but I would say there's a very good chance you could see a disqualification in this race.
Yeah, Vic, invaluable to have you here at this moment to give us your perspective, as you stated there, not only as an announcer but also as a steward. And I think sort of my gut tells me, not that I was going to disagree with you anyway, but my gut does tell me that everything you just said is spot on. Specifically, that sort of become the barometer, the whether you lose a placing, and that's something that I think everyone can sort of relate to when thinking of past inquiries, especially on the big stage. Did it cost this horse a place? Remember with Maximum Security, and that sort of chain, that domino effect that led to him not only being disqualified but being moved to, I believe, 17th or 18th in that race. And so right here, I think to your point, had we not seen Midnight Bourbon fall and had he held third, I think there's a very there would be, at least there'd be a greater likelihood, I think, that you can make an argument that Hot Rod Charlie would stay up. Ren, I think you want to jump in here.
Oh, I just want to say prayers up for Paco. From the way it looked, thank God the horse is okay also, and it does not look like it's anything super major for Paco. I did not see him step on his head or anything like that, but it did look like the horse may have stepped on his legs. I have to see it again. But still, prayers up, because any injury is something you never, ever want to see, obviously. But yeah, I would have to say, we have to really just wait and see how this plays out. But Vic, like you already mentioned, his insight is invaluable here. And it's just so unfortunate, because these horses, it looks to me as though the horses, in terms of performance, they've all ran the races.
Your attention, please. Hot Rod Charlie has been disqualified from first and placed last for causing number 6 Midnight Bourbon to clip heels in mid-stretch. The new winner becomes number 3 Mandaloon. Placed second, number 1 Following C. Third, number 2 Anti-Gravity. And fourth, number 5 Picking Pie. Number 4 Hot Rod Charlie from first.
Yeah, Brent, go ahead.
It's sad also because when you really think about it, I mean, obviously there's no intent there. It's not like Flavien Prat's trying to take anybody out of the race or anything of that nature. This is a game of inches in many instances, and had Hot Rod Charlie started to move over, a half second later, or had Midnight Bourbon started to come back, just a slight time, later, or had Mandaloon not come over by that little bit that sort of made Midnight Bourbon come over just that much that he happened to be in the path. It's just, these things happen so quick. It's really remarkable how something in a split second can change everything. Especially these horses ran their races. The horse who crossed the wire first, obviously all things out of the, the stuff that happened that was something we never want to see happen in a race aside, the horses ran their races. The best horse did cross the wire in first. It's just unfortunate. I understand the steward's ruling. I understand why they had to do what they did. It's just unfortunate. But the main thing here is, thank goodness the horse is okay, and prayers still up that Paco is completely healthy.
Yeah, we're continuing to effort an update on that front. We'll let you know as soon as we hear something about Paco Lopez. The wind's still pretty brisk here. There you see Mandaloon, your official winner now of the 2021 TVG.com Haskell Stakes, has earned an automatic berth into the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. Vic, your analysis was spot on moments ago. Any thoughts now that it's gone official?
Yeah, I have a ton of thoughts. I think that this is as much of a point of contention it's been about the use of the crop at Monmouth. This is going to blow that completely out of the water, because perhaps Flavien Prat will say if he had the ability to go to a left-hand stick, he might have been able to maintain a more straighter course. I don't know. I will tell you that these jockeys, they ride on the edge, especially for $1 million. And at the end of the day, you must have sufficient clearance to cross in front of another horse. King Dangerfield once told me, I said, "What is sufficient clearance?" And he said, "Son, it's what I say it is." Clearly, Hot Rod Charlie was not sufficiently clear of Midnight Bourbon, or he wouldn't have clipped his heels. I think it's a colossal error on the part of Flavien Prat. You cannot take a chance like that. Yes, he is the pilot. He is responsible for steering the horse. Sometimes young horses, and we must remember these are still young horses, they will fill a gap. When you have 3 horses across the racetrack, and then one of them can't keep up, and there's a gap between those two, horses will tend to fill that gap. You saw it slightly with Mandaloon, and you saw it dramatically with Hot Rod Charlie. But at the end of the day, these are the elite race riders on the planet, and you cannot be on a horse that was clearly better than the horse that you almost dropped and get disqualified out of $1 million race. A colossal riding blunder, and he'll get days, and he'll regret that for the rest of his career.
Yep. Well said, Vic. Also, while we have you on here for a few more moments, as we all just take in everything we've seen over the past 10 minutes or so, a pretty incredible edition of the Haskell Stakes here. Vic, we talked a little bit about your handicapping process. You landed on Midnight Bourbon, who let's not forget, I thought ran a pretty nice race here. I mean, he kept following C honest all the way around, and was there, and ran a big race. Certainly ran better than I thought he was going to run. But tell us more about your process, and tell us more about Thoroughgraph in particular.
I bet $200 to win on Midnight Bourbon, and I would have added a 0 to that at the 3/8 pole. I thought he was absolutely home and dry, and he was going to finish third because he was third best. Hot Rod Charlie and Mandaloon were better than him today. No excuses for him. at the end of the day, guys, what I said about Thorograph is, let me say something, and it's not meant to denigrate and you'll understand what I'm saying when I get there. I have the daily racing form here. And if I was forced to choose only one thing that I could look at in the daily racing form, even more so than the actual past performances, what I would look at would be the Beyer speed figures. Because 30 years ago, Andy Beyer also realized, along with Jerry Brown and Len Ragozin, that fast horses beat slow horses. And so when you look at the Beyers, you have a quantified number into how that horse ran. Now, the Beyers are brilliant, but Thorograph is 10 steps above them because of all of the things that they factor into their numbers that maybe, frankly, the Beyers don't. Again, please understand, I'm not knocking the Beyers. If I could only have one thing out of the form, it would be that. But Thorograph, with the incredibly, it's almost like KFC and their secret recipe, the way Thorograph goes about making their track variant. And you cannot make good numbers without a brilliant and perfect variant. And the thing that sets Thorograph aside is that very track variant. The way that they go into manipulating and calculating that figure. And it's not done. I can't tell you how it's done. That would be giving away the store. But it's not done by how fast winners run. It is done with a conglomeration of how many horses run in certain spots. So the very basis of my handicapping process is using those numbers to know which horses can and cannot win. Then after that, you go value shopping, and you, Ren, and you, Dan, you know this, and that is if they had all been 5-1, I'm not redboarding here, but if they'd all been 5-1, I would have told you as I went through the numbers that Hot Rod Charlie's probably the fastest horse. But he wasn't fast enough that it didn't make Midnight Bourbon, in this particular case, the correct bet. And at the end of the day, this isn't about picking winners. It isn't about cashing tickets. It's about consistently over the course of weeks, months, and years, making the correct bet. And if you can do that over and over and again, you will end up making money. And using Thorograph and some of the other things I use, like DRF Formulator and watching the replays, they help me make the correct bet often enough that it's gone well for me.
Yeah, and just
super insightful, Vic. Really appreciate that. Ren, I know we've had a lot of guests on over the past year and a half or so, but this is I think fitting, especially for the day and for what we just saw a moment ago. Yeah. It's certainly been a pleasure having Vic on with us today.
I don't know what we would have done without him here.
You'd have got it right, Ren. You saw it too.
I mean, I just when something like that happens, I get tongue-tied. I don't know what to say. It's awful, and at the same time you have to give the post-race analysis, but all I can say is I'm thankful that nothing looked catastrophic. But as far as the actual placings go, I don't know who better to explain why that happened than have somebody who's been there having to make those decisions.
I will say, and you alluded to it a moment ago, Ren, that it really was a jarring moment and a scary moment, and these are still tense moments as we wait for an official update on Paco Lopez in particular. While we don't have one, I can tell you that just refreshing Twitter, there are a couple of videos out there which do show Paco Lopez being taken out on a stretcher, and it's hard to tell from those videos.
I saw him I saw him move. I saw him. So thank God, nothing looks in terms of his mobility. I saw him sort of curl up and sort of sit himself up a little bit. So he was moving. I don't know if there's something broken beyond that, which obviously would heal. But people also have to understand, these jockeys, this is their livelihood. If they miss days, it's not like they're still pulling a paycheck or pulling a salary from somewhere. If they're out, they're not making money.
And all that to say, I mean, look, let's wait for an official update from either Monmouth Park or someone associated with Paco directly, perhaps his agent, and we will hopefully be able to then breathe a full sigh of relief. All right. We are close to wrapping up. Before we do, Vic, we'll let you go first, and we'll do our typical sign-offs. Vic Stauffer, thank you so much for spending a good bit of time with us and waiting in the green room, the virtual green room, for about 25 minutes beforehand. Appreciate that.
Oh, it's my pleasure, guys. Like I said, I think you're doing a great job with this, and you guys could switch over and do this on NBC. Believe me, you could.
Oh, thank you so much, Vic. Just one last question before we let you go, because there are a lot of people who are understandably upset and seeing the disqualification of a horse that did look to be the best in the race. What would you say to them to offer them some solace and to understand, you already went over it, but one more time, why this had to happen?
Well, there are various factors and various levels of the rules of racing. And Dan, you were talking about how what carries the day now is cost and opportunity at a better placing. There was a time where they would say a foul is a foul, and that was a horrible rule, and it was so bad that it doesn't exist anywhere anymore because it doesn't work. And that's, you'll have a horse that's going to go on to win 20 lengths, foul a horse very briefly that's 99 to 1 going to get eased, and they'd put that horse behind because, yes, by the letter of the law, he fouled him, but he didn't cost him a better placing, and those two horses were going to finish where they finished. The thing that's incredibly unlucky about this, obviously, if Paco is injured or if Midnight Bourbon doesn't come back very well, but the thing that's very unlucky about this is if those of you out there bet on Hot Rod Charlie, you were right. You bet on the correct horse, and he was the best horse. However, had Midnight Bourbon not fallen, literally fallen, I would expect that the stewards would have been able to make the case that they could leave it as it was, because those two horses were running past him, and he was not going to continue running with those horses. But all bets are off when it comes to a horse falling or a jockey coming off. And in that particular case, the stewards really have no choice in the matter. And so that's why, and I thought this was probably the fastest decision in a Grade 1 for $1 million in the history of horse racing, but it was actually a pretty easy decision. And that is, when a jockey hits the ground and another jockey or horse is responsible for it, you're going to go behind that horse no matter where you finish.
Yeah, very important point there on the speed with which we got that decision and that disqualification. A far cry from Kentucky Derby a few years ago when we went 22 minutes.
19 minutes faster.
And the disqualification not only behind, but to last. Can you explain why that happens in this situation?
When you cost a horse an opportunity at a better placing, you have to go behind the horse that you cost. And so since Midnight Bourbon effectively finished last, Hot Rod Charlie had to go behind him because that's the horse he fouled, and that's why he got put all the way back to last. This is a crushing defeat for the bettors. It's a crushing defeat for the people that own Hot Rod Charlie, because not only does he get disqualified out of $600K, he gets nothing. He gets $1,250.
And the Breeders' Cup berth, the winning you're in to the Longines Classic. I'm a huge fan of the Connections Boat Racing. They've been so great to us. I've been rooting for them all along. So great for the sport, the charities which they're backing. And it's awful to watch that happen also. It shouldn't matter connections, but when you have connections that are so rootable, it makes it sting all the more.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I totally understand. I mean, I've owned racehorses that have gotten disqualified, not out of $1 million races for sure, but when you have one that runs in Fresno and they get the money and you get taken down, it hurts too. So I get that. It's one of the reasons why our sport is the greatest sport in the world, because of the ups and downs, because of how it gets into our gut. I can tell, Ren, that you're not upset because the horse you picked at 6-5 didn't win. You're upset because you know these people. I know Doug and Leandro very well myself, and I can tell you this is not something that they're going to get over very quickly. I also know that Flavien Prat is an elite race rider, but he's going to kick himself for months and years, because winning a Grade 1 race is what this is all about at that level. And I remember...
He's been on the other side of it too. Country House, he gets the Kentucky Derby win.
That is such a great point.
Of maximum security coming down because of what happened in that. We're coming around the turn for home. He kind of bolted out, and all that calamity.
And it really does solidify what the incredible turns of fate in our sport. I love that analogy. Yes, he got put up. And he actually wasn't bothered in the Kentucky Derby. Maximum security fouled about half the field, but not Country House.
Right.
So in that particular case, Pratt was the beneficiary. This is going to hurt in a number of ways, because not only will he's definitely going to get days, but it's a basic rule of thumb that if you foul a horse and get disqualified nowadays, it's usually a 3-day suspension. That changes when a rider comes off. And so I think Pratt is probably looking at 7, maybe even 10 days. And in the case of a rider like Flavien Prat, he's making 30, 40,000 a week. It'll tell you exactly how dramatic what happened was.
Well, again, Vic Stauffer, thank you so much for carving out some time for us today. Really, your insights have been invaluable, and your time certainly appreciated. We hope to have you on again sometime soon. Thanks again, Vic.
Thank you.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
How do we end the show on this note?
Well, I think, look, I think you touched on, sort of, like, we are also fans of the game, me and you, right? Like, we bet, we do this stuff. We like hanging out with the people. We love interacting with everyone. I showed some of the comments a moment ago. Everyone saying, get well, Paco, heal Paco, and all that. And I think that's our primary thought at this moment.
Of course.
You can't help but also just feel miserably for the team behind Hot Rod Charlie.
I feel for the team. I feel for the horse. He ran it. He ran his race. The horse, he shows up every time. And when you see a horse go out there and give you everything they have, and it sucks for the horse too. Some people may think that sounds strange, but consider the performance up until that point.
Well, we said, we've used the word dramatic, I think, a number of times here in the past 30 minutes. Speaking of dramatic, and something that I'll kind of just put out there to look out for in the next few days, ABR actually had a video crew on site here today with Doug O'Neill. So we were with Doug O'Neill watching the Haskell with him. And so while we wait for that video to come back, just tell people to keep their eyes on americasbestracing.net and follow ABR at ABR Live. On Twitter, America's Best Racing, on Facebook and Instagram, and obviously also on those channels. As soon as we get an update on Paco Lopez, we will share it there. So a more than usual, a bit more somber today as we sign off. But all that to say, again, it's been there's no better way to do this than with you, Ren, and to share this road to the Longines Classic with Breeders' Cup and all the viewers here. Thank you for sticking with us. So many great comments and insights from the viewers who are watching, which was what we love about this. You're giving us your comments and your feedback. And the next chance you'll have to do that will be on August 7th. That's Whitney Stakes Day at Saratoga. We will be there. We will have a live show for you. Breeders' Cup Live, Road to the Longines Classic. Ren, last word?
I just want to say, again, first and foremost, prayers for Paco. I hope he comes back well and nothing major wrong. I want to say, Hot Rod Charlie, you never cease to impress. You are such a game race horse. To the whole team, Boat Racing, Doug O'Neill, all you guys, you should be so proud of your horse. You really should. He fought all the way to the end, and it is so unfortunate. Again, the game of inches with what happened with the clipping of heels. But thank God that the horse is okay. Talking about Midnight Bourbon also. And as for Mandaloon,
called onto the track.
I mean, we're still waiting to hear what happens with the Derby, but there's a horse who maybe deep into 2 major races.
11, 12, and 13.
Yep. Hey, and we didn't talk about it. Following C hung in there and ended up finishing second at the end of the day. Anti-Gravity got some show money at the end of the day as well. So, all right, this has been a pleasure. It's been fun. We will update you on all the matters we've discussed here in the coming hours and days. So stick around. Follow ABR on all the channels. Follow Breeders' Cup. We'll be back on August 7th for Breeders' Cup Live, Road to the Longines Classic from Saratoga, covering the Whitney Stakes. But for Ren Carothers, for today at least, I'm Dan Tordjman, live from Monmouth Park. We will see you next time.
It's America's original sport, and no one covers it better than americasbestracing.net. From the sport to the lifestyle, the best races, horses, and destination venues, cocktails, gambling, fashion, and more. America's Best Racing is a sport for you. Live it, love it, bet it.